All right, I'm here with Randy, and this is a Living Library conversation. So I just want to remind everybody watching this that if you are a member of the Karmic Margin Call Project Time Bank, you can credit your time watching this as an hour served. So you are earning an hour just by watching this conversation. So with this Living Library conversation, all I'm going to do is just listen, ask clarifying questions of Randy. And every now and then, if he wants to check in with me, he can ask me where I'm at, and I can reflect back to him what is alive for me as I'm receiving what he is giving to me. So as we were talking, Randy and I talked for about maybe 20 minutes before starting this recording. What dawned on me was that all of the living library conversations that I have recorded so far have either been with women or people who identify as non-binary. It's never been just between two men. And that's something that I'm very curious about as to why it is difficult to have just these appreciation conversations between men. So something that Randy came up with a couple of weeks ago that I think is really fascinating and something that I think is a good starting point in exploring how to create this culture is the element of kindness. And what Randy had mentioned was, he mentioned on his Facebook page, imagine if we could create a world where kindness was worth more than money. So I'm going to start off this conversation with that, Randy. What inspired that thought about kindness, and how do we create a culture of deeper kindness?
Well, first off, I don't remember how it was inspired.
Mhm.
um, I do want to begin with, this is not something I feel that is rose-colored glasses. I don't think it's Pollyanna. I think it's very realistic, meaning money is valuable, money is needed. It is a matter of a person's priorities, what they value most of all. Yeah, we all got to pay the bills, and it is nice to have nice things. Nothing wrong with money. But if we look at the people that it might be easy to kind of say is like, well, maybe, I don't know. It's like, oh, there's not people I aspire to be necessary. Again, somebody who's attracted to this concept that you just presented here and stuff. You may kind of go, yeah, there's a lot of greedy people here. They've got more than their fair share. And and again, I don't want, and again, yeah, I kind of fall in line with that group as well. I really, gosh, if I was the king of the world and stuff, kind of say like $1 billion is enough. Nothing wrong with having a lot of stuff, but once you kind of get there, you're taking care of for generations. You gotta be like Brewster's Millions deliberately trying to burn through
Yeah,
$1,000,000.
I remember that movie. It's one of my favorite movies. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's great. But again, for most anyone who would be listening to this and such, I don't want you to think that I'm anti-capitalist or people doing well. I think that's a wonderful opportunity all of us have here in the United States. Um, and certainly the people that have instilled upon me this type of stuff, the wealth they've created has been instilling a genuine value to those in this world. They've created things or collaborated with others in their business and stuff, presented something to the world that was very, very advantageous for a lot of people, and there was a fair exchange of money. Okay,
Yeah.
there, here. And I can say, by the way, somebody listening to this probably doesn't know, I grew up in Silicon Valley.
Right. Mhm.
The house that I grew up in is walking distance from Apple's International World Headquarters.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, the land it's built upon were the orchards where I learned how to ride a motorcycle, drive a stick shift. It was all, we called it the flats. It had all been leveled for something to be built there. And there was companies around there and stuff. Jobs in Wozniak are only a few years ahead of me to kind of put this in here and there. So I have seen my peers in school. One of my oldest friends, I've known since second grade, she got a job as the receptionist for Adobe.
Mhm.
Okay. She was just like any old person. I need to pay the bills. And somebody said, we're hiring, you know, and now she is Adobe. Last time I spoke with her a couple of years ago, Adobe had built new headquarters downtown San Jose and such, and she's on the top level. She shares her sales team and is shared with the president, vice president of Adobe. Okay, so I've seen, again, my point is I have seen people that she has worked hard. She definitely earned her seat. There's times when she has imposter syndromes,
Sure,
like me,
absolutely.
who with no college degree gets to be sitting at the table with these people.
Yeah.
So again, my point is I have seen the result of people again being ambitious, being hardworking, but also more understanding the basic principle is if I am able to be of benefit to others, then there is some type of compensation with this. So again, I
Yeah.
just want to lay this here. This is not Pollyanna here and stuff. But
Sure.
also, I can say that those that I have met that have, again, I would consider very successful professionally and such, very much again now in their later years
Yeah.
and such.
Mhm.
I don't want to say that necessarily they're philanthropists, but it seems to be
Mhm.
the best word right now. They're very much about paying it forward. They're very
Sure.
grateful for their life. They've again want to help people. I've been in mentoring situations and such, and it just really seems that um, while money is a nice way of keeping track
Mhm.
of your performance, of the value that you've brought into this world. And again, of course, not everybody's made their money by value. There have been some people that lied, cheated, and
Mhm.
stole. Um, but they're again, they just really want to make sure that those who desire to improve the quality of their life,
Mhm.
that they can do in their own little way. They can put their few drops in the bucket and stuff to help these people that there. So this is
Yeah.
really more about opportunity, is what
Sure.
I'm getting at here.
Yeah. May
Um,
I interject something, Randy?
Please.
May I interject something here? Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to clarify as well too to anyone watching this as well too is we want to invite people in the market into conversations like these. I've been saying this for about a year now, and I'm gonna directly quote my colleague Kylie Stedman Gomes, who's actually one of my ministry colleagues as well too. It's the market, the people who make their money in the market. There's a certain way that they do it, and it's by privatized interests. And of course, they have to keep secrets and do things a certain way to maintain a competitive advantage. Now, that's kind of like creating watering cans. Creating watering cans that are technologically advanced or can hold more, which is great. We need the watering cans. If we're going to think of money and power as water, watering cans are great. Then there's people who are in the state or in politics. They want to centralize power, so they want to make it easier, centralize, and that's like the piping system, where the theory is that the piping system is there to help get the money and the power, to people who need it. And then there's the commons, which is what efforts like this, like the Karmic Margin Call Project, like the Living Library, we're a commons-driven cooperative, and that's kind of like the rain. And we benefit from kind of decentralizing the power so that everybody really does see each other as equals and not get so caught up in the judgment of who's working hard, who's suffering more, but honestly, what is really our value? So we want to invite people who have, you know, earned a good amount into the conversation. We just don't want them dominating the conversation because it doesn't matter how great your watering cans are if there's been no rain. And that's what we're doing with this effort is helping to make it rain. And your efforts, especially with easier ways and with your path, with your journey towards sobriety, that is what really is so valuable, to the commons because it's the kind of thing where it's such a service to humanity and it's such a gift to humanity. And as we're kind of creating, kind of co-creating this new system as we go, I'm really hoping that people will be able to listen to your story more, Randy, and listen to what makes a better quality of life. What is it that where is kindness? What do you define as kindness? These are all things that benefit the commons. So I didn't want to go off on a tangent really there quick, but I wanted to really just make the point because I know there will be people watching this who I know who I've been criticized as being more socialistic than capitalistic. I'd like to see it a balance between the two. But I really just want to, drive home that we want to bring them into the conversation. We just don't want them dominating the conversation, so that we can, so that we can really, share what's intrinsically valuable.
Right. Again, and I really wanted to set the tone of, because now it's all going to be about kindness.
Now it's going to be about what?
It's kindness. We're going
Kindness.
to, for the rest of the conversation is now on here. Again, so you just let it out and stuff. And I have no shame in the game and stuff. I have 17 years of continuous sobriety.
Mhm.
When I went, and I did it through Alcoholics Anonymous, when I went to my first AA meeting, my intention was not to stop getting drunk every night, blackout drunk. My intention was to stop being miserable. Okay. And I just really wanted to go back to when it was fun, when I was enjoying life and I was enjoying my partying and such. So if you guys can teach me how to do that, that would be a good thing.
Mhm.
And as I went there, well, problem awareness increased, and very naturally, solution awareness increased with this.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I feel that sometimes the language that is used is confusing because it was for me. And that is, if anybody's familiar with the 12-step process, the first step is admit you're powerless over whatever 12-step meeting you're going. This case again, you're powerless over alcohol and your life has become unmanageable. Now, I don't know about anybody listening to this, but the concept of being powerless was pretty repulsive. I was not, despite being a blackout drunk and all the other stuff going on, being miserable and stuff, powerless was not something that I could agree with at all. I was very fortunate, though, that the man kind of heard whatever I was spewing that day. And he said, you kind of realize that powerless means you can't control your drinking. Yeah, I'm at this dumb meeting. It's like, yeah, okay. And this whole that your life has become unmanageable is because you've made a lot of effort to control your drinking. Yeah, I'm at your dumb meeting and stuff. I'm going to learn how to control my drinking. Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad you're here, Randy, and stuff. But you've put so much attention, so much effort into doing this. Other parts of your life have become neglected, and that's the unmanageable. And that was an epiphany. It was the first insight. So you touch upon the word again, the word power. Okay, so of course, contextual means a lot of different things, but again, we can talk about societies and world markets and stuff, but let's keep it to a point where it's practical and it's personal. And that is again is what I have power over. And again, in the theme of recovery, if you've heard the serenity prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Basically, if I got a hula hoop on, inside the hula hoops, what I can control, everything outside the hula hoop, I can't. Okay. Now, again, it's just again that's kind of a self-evident truth, but again, I have tried really, really hard to influence people, places, and things that were in alignment with how I had this idealized version of how it was supposed to be. And because the world is not how I envision it to be, I was very, very frustrated at an early age. And once I found, again, I was an outsider and I was not a cool kid. I didn't fit in any group. I wasn't even like a nerd Dungeon and Dragon. I just didn't fit in anywhere. I was the kid who hung out in the art room alone and drew and stuff. And that was my little sanctuary. But yeah, the world was not anywhere safe for Randy. There was not again, I had lots of acquaintances, but no real friends that, some people, again, that are outsiders and stuff. You have your best friend and stuff. I never had that person with me, um, and such. And then I discovered pot. Okay. I actually had gotten drunk a few times, company picnics and stuff like that. But pot was something that was accessible that I could do regularly in sixth grade. I remember very clearly getting high for the first time with Mike Callan in the back of the school by the fence and going, I want to feel this way every day. Okay. So I did as best I could every day, adjust my inner condition to be a little, I don't know, a little more at ease in a world I was uncomfortable with. Um, the power dynamics here in this world and such, I don't think anybody's in this lifetime and stuff is going to be able to do anything other than what's in their arm's reach. Okay. There is ignorance, there is intolerance, there is hate all over the place. And again, sometimes it's directed towards if you're anything like me, it is directed towards yourself. And why bring up this and stuff? I had this idealized version that I should be different than who I was. I hated myself as well, too. So this concept of kindness being more important than money, okay? I could have all the money in the world. I could be the Bezos or, kind of guy, bank account, all right? And if I can't be kind towards myself, if I have that same kind of misery I had for most of my life until I got sober at 43, and actually, again, it wasn't a light switch. So over 40 years of this going on, it doesn't matter. Okay. Feeling powerless over things. Man, that again, I was emotionally bankrupt with this. So this again, this kindness and stuff, people were kind enough with me when I was emotionally raw that eventually I felt that I wasn't the only man in the world that felt this way. Because again, talking about guys here and stuff, I don't know about anybody listening to this and stuff, but this is not topics that guys talk about. It was only until AA getting to this kind of stuff. And as I said earlier with Mike, I have one of the things that I'd been ashamed of is my wife loves me and she did not want me to continue in a blackout every night. And I heard it though as nagging. And you know, you're trying me to stop me, the only one solution I have in life to feel okay, and stuff. I could cognitively understand what was going on, but my feelings were quite intense of, you fucking bitch, why are you doing this kind of stuff? And I felt such inner shame, and I could never talk with anybody about this. I go to an AA meeting, and some guy shares about how he wants to take a shovel to his wife's head. And suddenly I'm not the only guy in the world who's feeling this kind of stuff. I am not alone. And I share in the meeting and stuff, and everybody kind of laughs. It's like, no, dude, of course not. This is par for the course, the guy who's lived this way. All of us in our own unique ways have had these challenges with the people who love and care about us and stuff, And if you want, you can come back and talk some more about this again. And it was like, wow, I've got this place where I can find, again, continue with the word kindness. There's patience and kindness. When I could not be patient and kind with myself, there were people around me because they had been in the same place as well. And, I wish I could say that, yeah, I went there, a handful of times and all of a sudden I was better. I was better. But I might let the force field down for the 5 minutes or so in the meeting and all that kind of stuff. But there was a lot of this stuff, again, as I talk about decades, just a lot of stuff that I didn't even know I was carrying around with me. And I was, again, I was continuing on with a lot of the same, how to say, modus operandi and stuff. I was making poor decisions that before I could blame on being a drunk and such, and all other things. But now I was making mistakes sober and they're affecting me and Sue, quitting a job, new job doesn't work out, kind of stuff, and just getting in desperate financial situations as well, contemplating suicide. And this one gentleman, James, asked me, and he goes, Randy, if you can't love yourself, can you let God love you? Again, when you're listening here and stuff, whatever your opinion is, your beliefs about God, that's the words he used. Okay? So I don't mean, it's not proselytizing anything like that. And I gritted my teeth and I go, I guess that's not too big of a request to ask. And then he goes, good. Can you let God love you through this fellowship? And that was kind of like the right cross there, because I knew the implication what he was saying is like, will you finally accept some help? These people are here for you, they care about you and stuff, and you're fighting and you're resisting it. So this is again where I'm talking about being patient and kind enough towards myself, kind enough anyone else to let people love you. And again, it's not easy because again, if you've had life experiences where people were not exactly who you thought they were, they feel like you've been betrayed and hurt and such. Most natural thing is you don't want that to ever happen again. Okay. But also here's the simple thing is, say, I don't know, you get into a fender bender, you get into a car accident. You might be hesitant to get in a car again and stuff, but people get back into cars after having accidents. Okay. Maybe not as big of a deal. So you go out for dinner. Okay. And you have a crummy experience, whatever it is. Service stinks, food stinks. I don't know what it is. You conclude, I'm never going back again. Do you stop ever going out for dinner? You go back to it again. Another, again, I think an analogy is a metaphor, is you are in a relationship and your heart's broken. Okay. That one's a harder one. And this is why, again, I think it's actually more applicable. Your heart is broken. Your life is shattered. You don't think you'll ever be able to love anybody again, but somewhere down the line, you're able to be fearlessly vulnerable in a relationship and you fall in love again, and it does work out. Okay, hopefully. And certainly heartbreak can really affect a person too. Even if you get into a relationship again, you'll still keep your force field up and stuff, because it does. It's one of the most terrible things people can have. It's their heart broken, but it does kind of seem to be a rite of passage. To be kind enough to yourself to let someone else into your life, I believe, is the beginning. To let somebody be kind towards you is a huge, courageous act for somebody who has gone through life and has felt like the lonely man in a crowded room. This is what I'm kind of talking about, kindness. This is the one thing I could control. I could just say when somebody would like, do you want to go have a cup of coffee and talk? And again, when he says talk, we're not going to talk about, we might start off with small talk about football game or the weather or whatever kind of stuff. We're going to talk about some stuff that I'm not eager to talk about. So being kind enough, it's like, yeah, again, and you can filter your conversation. If you're not getting hammered drunk and all of a sudden now have no filter to share, typically you can say things like, I don't want to talk about that right now and stuff. But it is an act of self-care, self-kindness to let people into your life just a little itty bit. And if they prove trustworthy and such, continue it. It doesn't mean all of a sudden next thing you know that you open the door wide open and stuff and it's all kumbaya and stuff. But this is the kind of thing that changed my life. And I've been in these support groups and recovery groups for over 17 years now. This is the process where people start recovering the joy of living, because I'm no scientist. I read a lot of books. You can see books behind me and stuff like that. But I believe that humans are wired for connection. We're tribal critters. Our DNA goes back to Neanderthals and stuff that could collaborate in the caves with others, you know, kind of stuff. The ones that survived were the ones who were in the tribe. And it doesn't necessarily need to go back to caves and stuff. We can certainly see through a lot of history in the last 100 years.
There's one thing
Wars,
I'd like to reflect back to, Randy. Just one thing that's really just
please.
shouting at me, which I wanna interject here. Yeah, I think, and especially for us men, I think the ability to collaborate, will really kind of help with that feeling of being alone, that feeling of being isolated, because I feel like when we regress back into this competitiveness, that's where it really kind of solidifies that feeling of isolation. But the more we open up, I talk a lot about developing the portions of the brain that monitor curiosity and appreciation, and that leads back to collaboration, choosing collaboration over competition. I think that's how we create these spaces where it is okay. We can be okay, and we can connect, because you're right. I think we are hardwired for connection. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I put that in there, because
Well,
one of the
and this is actually a nice little segue and stuff. As guys, we are competitive by nature. Kind of back to the loincloths and spears time and stuff. You know, those that got to meet and make a family and such had to do again the competitive nature. We again we can kind of see it. There's the documentaries of the rams butting head and stuff to mate with the ewe kind of thing. So we have this competitive nature with us. It doesn't necessarily it is a bad thing. It's just to understand when that serves us and when it is actually detrimental and harmful. Um, and then again, that takes some introspection, some self-awareness, um, but also again being in a relationship community and stuff with one other person. And again, just kind of sharing what's going on. I have blind spots. There are things that I just cannot see in solitude, and I practice solitude every day. Silence is key for the quality of my life, but I need another person for to be a sounding board and say, well, hey, have you looked at it this way? Or is my sponsor in AA, Alan, you say, Alan, as many times, and God, as much as he said, I don't give advice, I'll share some options for you to consider. Still asked for advice, but he always came back with at least two options, usually three options for me to consider. This was the genius of Alan's kindness and such. Was basically, okay, this is the challenge at work. What should I do, Alan? Alan was a high-ranking executive with Gallo Wine, ironically being an alcoholic. But anyway, again, he had a large sales team underneath him. I worked in sales as well, and Alan would be willing to again to help his share mentor me, like if I was actually in the same organization vocationally with him. So I think he picked it up there. Alan's gone, so I don't know where he picked this up, but it was brilliant for me. He respected my ability to have autonomy and to make mistakes, to give myself permission to make mistakes. This was one of my biggest detriments, handicaps, and such. I grew up in a household where mistakes were not tolerated. Again, if my parents found out that I had done something that did not meet their satisfaction, there was some type of consequence that I didn't care for. And therefore I would play small. Again, I would not do anything that I could possibly, again, miscalculate the things. But then I still, again, humans make mistakes, especially again, when we're talking about a kid, okay? Par for the course, you're going to be making mistakes, and some of them are really dumb mistakes and such. I did not have kindness in my household. So again, this was kind of the thing with it. And I felt less than, I felt like a failure. I felt that the world was cruel and did not tolerate mistakes. And Alan was someone who's just, again, just shared what I just shared with you. It's like, Brittany, how are you ever going to learn anything new? You're venturing into a new way of navigating life, of knowing yourself and knowing how to be and stuff. I guarantee you one thing, you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. So there's another thing on this topic of kindness and stuff. It was huge for me to give myself permission to make mistakes. Now, when I did mistakes that would affect another person, one of the things is to make amends. It's not just I'm sorry, which frankly, growing up, yeah, to let's say alleviate some of the punishment. I said I was sorry a lot without meaning it. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'll never do that again. Okay, just go to your, as opposed to getting some kind of physical punishment. Okay, go to your room without dinner kind of thing. And all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, I'm not sorry for what I did. I'm sorry I got caught. thing.
I'm
Um,
going through that with my daughter right now. Yes.
which again, is you're kind of chuckling. I don't think this is necessarily anything other than human behavior. But I carried with me that I thought I was a terrible person because of this. Because again, I had this idealized version of who I should be and how the world should be. But yeah, Alan would give me options. I'd consider the options. We could, again, kind of see how things were progressing. We may not necessarily get to the end result that I was striving for, or the problem I was trying to solve, but we could check in. We could talk about these things. And again, when I would ask advice, he'd be like, well, have you considered this or have you considered that type of thing? And if anything, it was a lot of times, I think it was when Alan couldn't necessarily come up with a couple options. He used to say, well, I think that's something you should pray over. There was a lot, they kind of chuckle and stuff like that. Goes, yep, that sure seems like an opportunity for growth. I think that's something you should pray for, kind of thing. Um, which again, it was like joke about this and stuff. I knew that again, as much as I was prone to put Alan on a pedestal, I could also see the humanness of him. He was not perfect. He was not the oracle. He was just a man who was extending the same kind of kindness that he had received. He was paying it forward. He demonstrated, and again, I model it now in my life. Yeah, I there was men before him, like James again, asking me if I would let God love me. How do I ever pay you back for this? And they'd always say, you pay it forward to the next guy. And Alan just like kind of almost like again, if he was my dad, just kind of like, son, you've heard it how many times? You pay it forward kind of stuff. That's the way we do things around here. And so that's what I'm getting at again, this thing of that I don't think, again, I don't think it's Pollyanna. I don't think it's rose-colored glasses because I've seen it happen in the recovery world. People paying it for you being kind. It's again, it's almost again, if we're going to use currency, okay, currency is something that again that floats freely. I have no idea how many trillions of dollars are exchanged in this world. There's a lot of money that just floats around every day, whether it's just $1 for a candy bar, or $500,000 for a home or whatever and stuff. Money just it's exchanged freely about as air. You bring it in, you let it out, and stuff. If kindness was given as freely, and again, it doesn't mean necessarily somebody spending hours. It could be like Alan did with me and listened while I verbally puked. But maybe it could just be, I don't know, looking somebody in the eye and smiling. You know,
Mhm, mhm,
um, I am a bit of a weirdo, and again, I have my own ways and stuff. But I
mhm,
like to like when I am in the checkout lane in the grocery store and I see the name tag or somebody's at Starbucks or I'm at dinner and stuff, I see their name and I'll be just, hey, thanks for asking, Mike. Wow, what do you suggest?
mhm,
Thing.
yeah,
And be conversational because
mhm,
even though their role is now to be of service to me, And I'm very grateful that is a human being. So again, it could
Mhm.
just be as simple as that. One of the things we talked about in recovery of being of service out in the wild and stuff.
Mhm.
Put your shopping cart back where it needs to go and grab another one or two that has been left there to make it easier for that person when they come and they round them up and bring them back to the front of the store.
Yeah.
Little acts like that kind of, it doesn't mean you're going to be, I don't know, Mother Teresa.
Mhm.
We're not talking about working with lepers. But I have this hypothesis is if somebody is getting intentional about this, of what could I do? It could be very simple acts of checking in on a friend.
Mhm.
It could be very simple acts of bringing in your neighbor's trash cans. Maybe
Mhm.
again, if there is the need that arises that a neighbor could benefit from you mowing their lawn,
Mhm.
you know, I've done that. People have done that for me as well. When it was getting rough, it's like, yeah, I just had my hip replaced and stuff. I'll get to it. It's no
Mhm.
big deal. And again, it was just he had the mower out. He came over and stuff and ran it in the front yard. So when we are intentional about being kind,
Mhm.
it's fascinating how opportunities present themselves.
Yeah.
And there's a vitality. Again, this is something I hope you can reflect upon it, the listener, that there has been a time when you were generous with your time or money.
Mhm.
Or again, even with power, as we touched on power, is letting someone else get credit for the good deed
Right.
kind of thing. These are general things that, again, I am sure there's an infinite amount more than I've experienced or could kind of try to throw out here for you to ponder. But if, again, the idea, and it would start as simple as being kind to myself, and the same
Yeah.
as your listener, being kind to yourself. But when you start realizing that the world is not necessarily as messed up
Mhm.
as you've thought it is,
Yeah.
when you can see people that have been kind to you, because again, it's a human nature reciprocation. Typically,
Mhm.
you open the door for somebody and they'll say thank you to you. You let somebody take that parking space and stuff. They might give you, or not. You're not doing this as a transaction. You're doing this as because you want to do it, but basically it's frankly it's a better way of leaving. The name Easier Ways this
Mhm.
is the collaboration as opposed to competition in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Competition will
Can I
always
share
be there.
something? Can I share
Please,
something,
yes.
Randy? I'd like
Hmm.
to share something, especially when it comes to like, you know, men in business and the business mentality. One of the things I like to do is I like to ask permission to care. It was interesting. I went to a 3 day event a couple weeks ago, which was pretty much marketers, talking about, their services, how to make money, how to influence money and all of that. And the topic of suicide came up about 4 times over the course of those 3 days. So a lot of these men who were speaking, were struggling with their mental health. And a couple of them said, I'm going to tell you just a little bit about me. I know you don't care about me, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself anyway. So the first time someone said that, I kind of like, ooh, my feeling was, I don't know if I want to be in a room where the assumption is we don't care about you. I want to care about you. I want to, I want to know you. I want to know more about you. So that means the second time somebody said that in the middle of his talk, he said, okay, now I know you don't want to hear about me. I know you don't care about me. I put my hand up right away. I said, excuse me, are we allowed to care about you? Is that okay? And I kind of shook him up a little bit. He said, yeah, yeah, that is okay. Because I really want to this idea of kindness, being able to come into a room and know that not everybody is necessarily out for themselves. There are people who want to care. There are people that want to be generous with their time and generous with their environment and with their space and maybe even their money. I don't know. Can we care? Will you allow us to be kind? So that's I just wanted to share that because that
Yeah,
was
yeah. And is by ourselves taking the initiative, we've kind of given them the gift. We've already gone first. We've given them the
Mhm.
gift to go in second. We've given them basically permission to
Mhm.
do so. They kind of know that it's okay. It's not considered a sign of weakness, or I don't know, whatever you would consider it and stuff, but it not an attribute that is typically appreciated in this society.
Yeah.
And in closing, again, as you've allowed me to express myself, Mike, so well, I think in closing, what the most generous act that's ever been bestowed upon me, and I try to pay it forward, is listening.
Mhm.
All those other things that I tried to bring up to spark you to, consider how you could apply it in your day. I think we all have opportunities every day to be present and listen to
Mhm.
someone. It could be our kids, it could be our spouse, could be our coworkers. Again, any other human being that's outside your hula hoop, to listen to them in a way that is kind enough to care. As
Mhm.
you just expressed, this guy had this, you just spoke about, Mike, had a general presumption. I know you don't care. I heard that is he spent his whole life, when he did express himself,
Mhm.
nobody cared.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. Nobody
Yeah.
cares about me. Well, there are people, again, as Mike expressed. Mike, if somebody's listening to this, you need to, again, you want to talk with Mike, I can assure you he is one of the best listeners I've ever experienced in my life. And I'm very grateful to have him in my life. Um, but yeah, you don't have to be trained to listen.
Yeah.
For myself in sales and stuff, the technique was for me is to repeat back words that are being said. So
Mhm.
as you're having your things, I'm in the dialogue, but I'm also was trained not to listen with the perspective that, oh, I'm here to correct you. As I'm listening, is like, is this person correct or incorrect? My conversation again. So that's that listening to respond kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I heard you. I heard you. If again, if you just did it this way, you wouldn't have a problem. Of course, I'm exaggerating a little bit to make the point and stuff, but if you can just kind of listen, and just the way the way it was shown to me by Alan was very much like listening to music you enjoy.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm a
Yeah.
musician. Again, there's sometimes I listen to music to try to kind of figure out how a part's played or whatever there. But to
Mhm.
listen to music that you're just enjoying it. You're present to it. It's not necessarily in the background. You can hear this. Oh, that's the song I like. And you can kind of maybe move your body and stuff to it and stuff. Now, again, I don't mean when you're listening to somebody, you're going to be bopping around, but that same kind of enjoyment of like, this is cool. I don't get to slow down and listen to somebody very often and stuff. This is a good time for me.
And that's key, being able to slow down. A
Yeah.
lot of people, we're culturally conditioned to speed up and get to the thing. We don't have a lot of environments where it's okay to just slow down and be. We're told our value is what we do, not with what we are or what we're
Yeah.
being.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
something
and
else.
then, yeah. And then as I interrupt you, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Go ahead. Go
But I
ahead.
wanted to do this before I lost track of it and stuff. And then as his guy says, we're fixers.
Mhm.
Don't listen to fix. You're not here to fix anyone.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this is one of the things that was key to me in recovery and stuff. Unsolicited advice is an insult.
Mm.
Actually, my friend Neil says it's abuse, which
Mm.
I guess it can be sometimes and such. But yeah, when I'm listening, I'm not going to try to. Now, I guess if somebody asks, much like I had asked to Alan and stuff, I do my best to kind of come up with a couple options for them to consider.
Mhm.
But I'm not listening here is a way to, again, judge whether you're right or wrong. Because frankly, that's another thing, was when I've done that and stuff, usually that means I know better than you. That's that's not a good place for Randy. I don't know about anyone else, but if I come from a place of superiority and stuff, it really just doesn't serve just that moment, that listening. There's also a paradigm, again, it kind of does come into the spiritual stuff, throwing out the God word and all those kind of stuff, that at our essence, we are perfect. We are perfectly designed. And if you've been a parent and looked at a baby and stuff, you know, it's just like is an innocent child and stuff. And if the child's needs are met, okay,
Mhm.
they get some food, they get some sleep, they get their butt wiped, they're usually pretty darn content. Oh yeah, and they need to be held, you need to be seen and such. But
Mm.
that terrible twos, we start realizing the things outside of us, outside of our hula hoop, can bring us some kind of satisfaction. And we start getting this separate situation and say, mine, 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 mine. Um, ours, ours, ours. Even as much as parents will say you got to share with your brother or sister and stuff like that, there's still that competitiveness kind of going. And again, I don't think it's anything other than human nature and such.
Mhm.
But eventually got to a point for myself that it was much more harmful than it was beneficial and stuff to understand. Yeah, there's still stuff that's mine, and again, it's not like I'm selling everything to give to the poor kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, um, but I don't know how to say such ownership on everything, or in regards to every idea, is really what I want to get at. Is again, it's just as natural that you have your own way of seeing things. We can still be seeing eye to eye on a lot of stuff, but it's inevitable that you're going to have a different approach. Again, you can see in the world through your own eyes. So for
Mhm.
disagreements to happen, that's inevitable. In fact, it's natural. Okay. It's healthy. Actually, again, this is another thing in regards to just agreeing with people not to, again, growing up in a volatile household, just not to upset situations.
Right.
This does not mean, again, what I'm implying here does not mean that you become a doormat, a martyr,
Mhm.
or anything like that. You can establish your boundaries and stuff, but it can be done in a way that isn't being a jerk as well, which I
Mhm.
have, again, it's like, oh, I'm going to set boundaries. I'm going to tell people where the line is and don't cross it kind of stuff.
Yeah.
No, and so I guess what I'm in ending here and such as this is a process. It's a matter of trial and error. People will influence you in a positive way as you, again, if you do think this paradigm of kindness being more valuable than money. I've got enough money in the bank. Yeah, it'd be nice for a little bit more and stuff, but I think I'd rather have a little bit more kindness, and I'd like to receive a little more kindness. That is right now more valuable to you right now. Understand that it's going to be a process of trial and error. You're going to make mistakes. Okay.
Yeah.
People are going to make mistakes. This kindness thing towards yourself and others, to understand that inevitability of it is for me is what I feel is the grease on the wheel.
Mhm.
But if you don't give up, much like again that whole thing about, okay, you had a crummy dinner, you don't go back to that same restaurant. If that person just does not want to participate in kindness, they don't really care.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, now you know. And
Mhm.
it's not competitive. It's like, I'm a better person than you because I'm kind and caring and you're not.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff. That's just how it is. And it, again, do you value the relationship enough that you don't have to be right through it? Or maybe again, you don't value the relationship, which is okay. Is I'm 60 years old. There are people that are no longer in my life
Mhm.
because I realized, like, I'm the one that's always calling them. For the last 5 years, that person has never called me. And they pick up the phone and they'll call me back, and so I would still call
Mhm.
them a friend. But this person never reaches out to me.
Mhm.
And I'll just, out of curiosity, I wonder if I don't call them, if they're going to call me. And there's a few people on my phone
Yeah.
that I'll see their name when they dial me, but I'm frankly, I'm not thinking that they really for whatever reason. So I'm not taking it personal, is what I'm getting at here.
Right. Mhm.
It happens. Again, I think that is just the natural thing about this. But on the other hand, there is, again, Alan was the one person. There is more than one person in my life that does reach out and check on me, and it's like,
Yes.
you okay, buddy? And again,
Mhm.
it's just it's not a Herculean task for you to write a text and just
Mhm.
say, how you doing?
Yeah.
And it means the world to me. That,
Mhm.
again, being the guy who was the lonely man in the crowded room, to know that there were people like Mike actually happens to be one of those people that there's no ulterior motives. It is
Yeah.
just who he is doing it. I know a little bit about Mike's history and stuff, that again, he's gone through his process of becoming the guy that you're hearing here today and all those kind of stuff. He wasn't born a saint, nor is he a saint today. But again, it is something that, again, I find attractive. And this is another thing, if you're wondering kind of what is it in for me to be giving unconditionally, this kindness and stuff. There is something that is intangible, and therefore I can't say that when, much like money that you invest in the market, this is a sure investment that you're going to get 10% back on. But there are things that come back to you that you give out, that comes back to you, and yeah, it's worth more than money. So anyway, that's my spiel.
Yeah, and ironically, the way to kind of change the paradigm is just acknowledging and spending that time with the people who do care enough to check on you. You know, as long as you've got one or two people like that in your life, everything changes, and it can. Something that was really alive for me while you were speaking there too, Randy, about, no, not everybody's going to be on your same vibe. Not everyone's going to resonate with you. I mean, you can agree with someone on 95% of everything, but if the focus is on that 5% where you don't see eye to eye, the relationship can fall apart. Likewise, you can have a disagreement and not see eye to eye or have different values with someone, with 95% of your beliefs and values. But if you're focused on that 5% or whatever, where you are aligned and you do have common ground, it's got a shot. It's got a shot to grow into something. It depends on what we're focusing on. Are we focusing on the common ground, or are we looking to dissent? Are we looking to to have an environment where we take that out on somebody else? And that's what comes back to kindness. If you can find that, even that 1% of common ground with someone, kindness has a chance.
There's one other thing I'd like to add. May I?
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
So early on in sobriety, so my first sponsor, Bob, the agreement was we go to 3 meetings a week together. And I read AA's basic text, the big book. That was the condition for him to be my sponsor. So doing this stuff in about a year's time, there was a Monday meeting. Then, hey, Mondays kind of, you're not really jazzed about Mondays. And after a day of work and stuff, you're not necessarily keen on going to a meeting. At least that was the case for me. And I just, was looking for loopholes, looking for excuses not to do something I didn't want to do.
Mhm.
And in this particular meeting, I went to Bob, hey, this is a bunch of younger people. This isn't real alcoholics like you and I. These are teenagers that are just doing teenager things. And he goes, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Tell you what, why don't we go one more time, Randy? But this time look for similarities instead of differences.
Mhm.
Now, I am always up for a challenge to prove that I'm right and you're wrong. So, right. I'll see you on Monday night, Bob. So we go there, and again, he's in the same room, so we can compare notes afterwards. And again, if you can envision, you're meeting every week, and typically people's problems will persist week after week and stuff, the big problems at least, and stuff. So there's this young girl, young lady, I'll say, she got drunk and did something she was ashamed of. She had sex with somebody that she wouldn't have had sex with if she hadn't been drunk. And she didn't think she could show her face ever again at school. She felt all the things that go with that. And the previous weeks, again, I'm just like, come on, teenagers get drunk. They do stuff like this. Yeah, it's kind of the thing, you know. But this time I could hear the shame. And although when I was a teenager, I would have bragged to my friends about doing this, kind of stuff. I remember being at a party and being so drunk that I couldn't, when I felt I was getting sick, I couldn't get up off the couch and I got sick all over myself. Everybody made fun of me. They grabbed me by the ear, threw me out onto the front lawn, threw a hose on me and all this kind of stuff. Very humiliating situation and such. Which again, I think you could picture if somebody did that at a party among high school students, that's not unusual and such. But of course, I felt that shame. how can I ever show my face in school ever again? I'm the biggest idiot in the world. So again, even though she's a woman, okay, again, details are different. I could connect with the shame. And there was also a young man who had wrecked his car. Okay. I don't know if necessarily that was what he had to do because of court, because I certainly had to go to AA meetings with court cards and stuff. Um, but I was just like, yeah, come on. You drive fast, you take chances, you wreck cars and stuff. Guys do that. But this time I remembered, oh yeah, I remember my first car. Got this car. All of a sudden I had my freedom. I didn't have to take the bus to work and stuff. I can take girls on date. I didn't have to go on double dates and stuff. Yeah, man, I finally had freedom and stuff. And yeah, I wrecked it and it was only 2 weeks and stuff. And I remembered how, yeah, I felt like it was almost inversely proportional to the freedom I felt. The now all of a sudden I just was the lowest of the low. What a loser, and the self-hatred and stuff that. So I could hear that in this young man's voice, in his story. That my point of this is if we look for similarities instead of differences, there can be the empathy where the natural again, I don't know even if reciprocity is the right word for it. It's just a natural progression that empathy will come together. If you can, again, this is empathy is what I'm talking about. I wasn't trying to be empathetic. I was just frankly doing an exercise that where I was so prone to judge you and see how I'm different and show my superiority and stuff of this. That same amount of effort and intention, that same attention I was applying or typically it was almost like a mental judo. Instead of me saying, it's like, yeah, how am I different than this guy? How am I like this guy? Then just the empathy just came as a natural byproduct of this, of like, oh yeah, I feel that. I've been there too. And this is the thing in closing and stuff. Again, in the spirit of kindness, that maybe again, if you're looking at ways that you can maybe perhaps be again, the paradigm of more kindness in the world being showered upon you, or again, even trickled. Again, just someone being kind to you when you feel like no one's again, give a little, get a little kind of thing. Yeah, this empathy just kind of flows when you stop judging people and you start looking for similarities. Because yeah, I did, Bob was wise enough that he's, we're talking about this afterwards. He goes, well, maybe it was a fluke. Why don't we come back next week? Let's do this again. Because I could be wrong. Again, these sponsor guys are smarter than me and stuff. And I went, and of course, I could, it may not have been the same two people. In fact, it wasn't, and I won't go through all the stories and stuff. But eventually it went out, it was done to keep me in the process of relationship for recovery. It became something that was not done out of necessity and circumstance. Like, yeah, I need to continue on this path. I'm still precariously in a place where I could return back to my old behaviors that were self-destructive. That again, it was out of circumstance, not virtue that I do this stuff. But eventually, yeah, going outside and seeing people. I've got a big loud voice and stuff. I've yelled at people at stores that I didn't get my way. And I was at a store. The last time this happened was like it was a business sporting goods store going out of business, everything 70% off kind of sale going on. And this guy wanted to return a swimsuit, which of course, even when you're staying in business, it's just not store policy. Sorry, you can't bring that back. And he was letting the manager and everybody in the store knowing that he was returning this thing. And as I'm standing in line with my goods and stuff, I listened to him and just went, oh my God, that's what I sound like. And the truth will set you free, but it'll usually upset. It was very uncomfortable at that moment kind of stuff. Sue's with me, my wife Sue, and kind of like, oh my God, that's just like me and stuff. And she kind of gives me all these, like, you think? Stuff. It's like, yeah, that's me. So this is another thing as well as the benefits of this is you can see things in a way that your pride, again, you've got, again, a certain inner force field that you won't see things in yourself because frankly they're not in alignment with the person you want to be. So these blind spots that I talked about earlier, I don't want to look at the ugly parts of Randy, but when I can, when I know better, I will do better. I that was a while ago. I have never ever once even for a second considered going back to the old behavior of raising my voice to get my way, not just in a store, but in any situation. And I didn't have to do it in a way that I got humiliated, which probably would have, again, is envisioning would have been the only other possibility to have a moment of clarity of going, this is not how I want to live my life. When I can look and see the similarities with other people as opposed to judging him and thinking things like, what a jerk, what a fool. Again, as I'm alluding to, he's like, does he know better? He can't return anything. It says on these signs, 70% all sales final. And so easy enough for me to judge, and I guess I did judge a little bit. But in it, there was a lesson that's made the quality of my life better. And that's what, again, this whole thing about here is it's an issue of the quality of life. Me being sober, I have a better quality of life. Me having better relationships, I have a better quality of life. Me having a self-esteem, a self-respect that I never had before, higher quality of life. These are the things that are more valuable than money. You can have all the money in the world. You can have the corner office. You can have the parking spot in there. You can have the title, all the trappings that a good career can bring you and such. And if you have no self-respect, you don't have no self-esteem, you have the misery and self-hatred like I did, you'll wind up in an AA meeting like I did, if you're lucky. Okay. I have this hypothesis when we hear the stories of the rich and famous that choose to end their lives. How could he do that? How could she do that? Why would she had a great career? Seemed like everything was going her way. My hypothesis again is because I had that hole in the soul, that emptiness in me, I couldn't be kind to myself or let other people be kind to me. And such, that person decided that whatever lies on the other side of this life was likely better than this misery that they're going through. And again, it could be a chemical imbalance. And again, I don't have letters after my names, and I'm certainly not going to try to diagnose. If I did, I off a headline trying to diagnose why somebody chose to take their life. And again, it doesn't need to be it was a headline. It could be someone that you've known. It's just like, why did they do this? Well, it's kind of an Occam's razor. It's the most simple thing and stuff. They felt that this was the best solution, that there was no other way. Life just was not going to work. They've tried it every way, and just life doesn't work. And probably if you're like me, you're concluding it's maybe not even life doesn't work. It's like, I don't work. I can't do life as a sober man. I can't do life as a drunk. I am just broken. This is what I mean by, again, you are not broken. Okay. You may have behaviors that are far from perfect. Behaviors that could be adjusted, as I've been alluding to here. Thoughts that are there and such. But our nature, before we get conditioned on how we are in this world and such, again, the state of we're being, there is a wellness and a wisdom with us. There's a love, a patience, a kindness, a peace that's with everyone. And again, I don't think this is rose-colored glasses. This is wishful thinking and stuff. And it's so be it if it is. Looking at people and understanding that it is a conditioned mind that is being cruel and such. If we think again, think of the people in the headlines, regardless of what your political party is and stuff. It's such a polarized word. The people on the other party right now, media has been priming us for decades and stuff.
Yeah.
We're good, they're bad. Okay.
Right.
The person that you think is the worst villain in the world and stuff probably has at least one good attribute. Oh, God, I know I've been rambling and stuff. I met a woman one time. Her game, kind of like looking for similarities, was she meets somebody, she wants to find their one good attribute. She goes, I'm going to assume this person has one friend in this world. And what is that attribute this human being has that makes them a person you want to be friends with? Again, it was a little more complicated than that. But then maybe that's another angle here, as I'm just rambling here at the end, and I'll end it with this. Maybe, yeah, maybe play fun and just as you're listening to somebody without judging them or anything, or your tendency to try to see if you agree or disagree with what they're saying. Maybe it's just like there's got to be something with this person that makes them worthy of being a friend to one other person. Maybe I can find that in this conversation. So with that, yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, and that's exactly what an appreciation conversation is. That's what these living library conversations are intended to be. One person just listens and finds the common ground or reflects back the common ground or asks clarifying questions. And so I usually end these conversations, and I'm going to answer my own closing questions. What I appreciate, I usually ask, what did you appreciate most about our time together? What I appreciate is just how easily we filled at this point in an hour and 20 minutes of just, meaningful conversation. And giving me the opportunity to practice the first collaborative skill, which is generous listening. And the second question I usually ask is, what are you most curious about, exploring together? One of the things that's coming together, and I'm going to include this conversation with the rest of the living library conversations. What I'm curious about is people watching this and finding the thread of spirituality in this conversation and the rest of the conversations that I've been recording over the last a couple of months. Because come July or so, I want to call back, all of the people who have participated in this living library and ask them if they might be interested in being sort of like an unofficial board or an unofficial leadership team for the living library and the Karmic Margin Call project. So I'm just curious to see how we will continue to evolve together, working together, listening to each other, and deepening relationship.